I built my argument on notions that have been present in Western philosophy since Plato and Aristotle. Notions that we explain knowledge through cognitive powers that we have, that we can talk about what is the ideal object of a cognitive power, what is the thing that it knows best, and knowing this thing that it knows best will be the best use of this power and the most pleasurable, and that human beings by nature want to know. So someone has asked, well, if all these concepts are old, why is the argument not old? It's always difficult to answer questions about why did people not take one course of action that they could have, because whenever people choose to take one course of action, they inevitably don't take an infinite number of other courses of action. And when it's people so far in the past that we know so little about them, then yeah, it becomes very speculative to answer this kind of question. But nonetheless, I have some thoughts about this, which I'll share. So there are two things to take into account here. First off is, why did ancient philosophers not pay so much attention to touch? And second, why did the idea of sex for the sake of reproduction catch on so much? I think these are both connected with the heavenly bodies. So historically, since antiquity, in Western philosophy, there's been a privileging of sight over touch. This has many reasons, but one of the central ones is that sight puts us in touch with the heavenly bodies, which were seen as divine, right? The heavenly bodies, the sun, the moon, and the stars, they move across the sky on their own, moving like living beings, and they're always the same, they're always shining, they're immortal, undying. And furthermore, astronomers plot their courses and see that they're obeying these mathematical formulae over and over again, following this rational path. Therefore, the heavenly bodies were seen as immortal, living, rational beings, truly divine. And sight is something that puts us in touch with them. We can only do astronomy through sight. And furthermore, it lets us contemplate them, right? The ray of the sun connects our eye to a god, right? So our eye is something that lets us touch a god, as opposed to touch or smell or taste that only gives us access to things that are close by and things that, like us, came to be and will pass away and are always changing. So in this sense, sight has a privilege because it accesses something that is better, right? Furthermore, with regard to reproduction, in Plato's Symposium and in Aristotle's biological works, you find the idea that all living beings want to reproduce. Why? Because they desire immortality. Why do they desire immortality? To be like the divine things, right? So this image of the divine heavenly bodies immortally pursuing their route is actually also connected with this idea of that sex is for reproduction, because that is like the best thing that sex can do, because again, it can make us like the gods in this way. Set aside any intimacy, any knowledge that you can get by touch. If your idea of being close to the gods is being immortal like them, then certainly that is going to appear to be the most important thing about sex. And therefore, and then you can think of that as the purpose of sex. So I think because of this privilege of the heavenly bodies, this astral religion, touch gets neglected and also sex gets directed towards reproduction. And that's why this argument, though it draws on old concepts, is not itself an old argument, because it only draws on some of them. It doesn't draw on all of them.